The time is what, 16 minutes past 8. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Salam Media with me, Salailo Makwidiri, standing in for Inaid Wadi. He's, a bit offish. There's a flu going around. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed a very, very harsh flu, and I think he's the latest victim of that. So I'll be with you for the next 2 hours. I've been with you for the last 3 days, and it's been really, really enjoyable. And we're going to jump into our first interview. A recent terrorism alert was issued for South Africa by the British government. So essentially, the British government, they're warning, well, its citizens and maybe South Africa. In the travel alert, which was updated on January 4, 2024, and is still in place, the UK's Foreign Office warned its citizens, and the quote goes like, terrorists are very likely to try to carry out attacks in South Africa. The main threat is from individuals who may have been inspired by terrorist groups, including Daesh, and who may carry out loner actor attacks. So we'll be chatting a bit on this with Willem. He's the Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosive Related Incidents at the Institute for Security Studies. I'm sure we have Willem on StreamYard. Willem, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Salam Media.
Good morning, Sir Lalo.
Yeah. Willem, first and foremost, I think the main question, or like the first question anyone would have in this situation, is how other countries, we've seen America do this also, release these alerts, and now the UK itself is also doing the same thing. How is it possible that these countries have intel on possible terror attacks in our very own country without our government knowing about them?
So, no, yeah, in the first place, we have to stand back a few steps and look at the big picture. Even South Africa, if you can take it back to that, South Africa before the state capture, we used to have two secret or two intelligence services. The one was the National Intelligence Service that focused on domestic intelligence, and then we had the Secret Service that focused on gathering international intelligence for South Africa. And just as with the Americans and the Brits and most of the other international missions in South Africa, and just for a matter of fact, South Africa's got the second highest count of foreign missions in Pretoria after Washington DC in the world. We've got about 190 odd missions here. So every one of them has got a detachment of their intelligence services to that mission. And what happens then is they focus on the interest of that country, looking out for their citizens doing business, citizens of them living in the country, the country's interest, but also to look at to issue warnings in terms of terrorism, in terms of organized crime, kidnappings, and all those things, mainly to warn their citizens that are planning to travel to South Africa or that are in South Africa for several reasons. And that is the backdrop of these presence of these foreign services within South Africa.
And just how accurate can these warnings be? Because I remember it was back in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, where the American government also issued an alert, and in their alert they even specified where it will take place. They said in Sandton, this terrorist attack might be carried out. So, and well, nothing happened after that. How accurate are these alerts? So that people just know, and there's no gray areas, and sometimes it might happen, sometimes it might not happen.
Yeah. We must just remember that it's intelligence reports, and intelligence are based on verified information and processed information. If we look at the lessons from history, we all remember the Westgate attack in Kenya about a year, according to the parliamentary report that was released after the attack in Kenya. About a year before the attack, a foreign service warned them about an attack. And then 3 months before the attack, the foreign services warned them again on this attack. So what happens when foreign services issue a warning? First of all, there are some protocols in place. They have to go back to the National Intelligence Services. They normally put up a meeting, they sit around the table, and they share their intelligence in terms of the protocols. What the local National Intelligence Services then do is they then take that, they analyze it, and they also gather their own intelligence on that, and based on their own investigation, they then design their response. So in Kenya's case, they did not act that favorably towards Kenya. In South Africa's case, we don't know, because South Africa doesn't have a history of going online and warning the South Africans about that. But what we can also say is, once those warnings goes out, the apparatus behind the scenes kick into place, and there are several preventative measures that are being taken by the host country. And that is why we will never know what happened there, because we are not privileged to that. But it could be that that those measures worked and it was a deterrence, or maybe the warning was a deterrence for these groups to act or not to act.
I think what's confusing with this one is, you have our Department of Foreign Affairs here, DECO, saying, we were still waiting for proof from the British government. So it almost looks like, the British government it has information, but they're withholding it from the South African government, because the DECO, we tried to contact them also to ask if they have any kind of evidence, have they spoken to the British government, and they've said no. We're still waiting for them to come to the table, invite us, tell us what the threat is, where it might happen, so that we can act accurately. Why do you think this is? Well, why does it seem there's a disconnect? Because when you have this information, I'm pretty sure that's South Africa and the British government in what, well, you'd consider good terms, if you ignore what's been happening recently in global affairs. Why do you think it's like that? What do you think there's that withholding of information from the British consulate?
Well, there are several scenarios that we can look at. As you rightly mentioned, the geopolitical circumstances in South Africa, but in the world, has changed dramatically in recent months, and there might be some distrust because of that. But also, what we can we should also take into consideration is that they are currently reviewing the what they call the Intelligence Act, or the GILAB, because of some recommendations after some studies were done, and also Commission's recommendations to revamp and to uncapture the intelligence services. So they are not there yet. The act is still in Parliament. It's still in process, and in that act, one of the things that they recommended that was going to happen is that our Secret Service will be separated from the National Intelligence Service once again. They're trying to uncapture the whole thing. So what we gather is that the structures within the intelligence service is not what is supposed to be at the moment yet. They are working to that. So that can be one of the reasons that communications and blockages also took place. What some of the other scenarios that we can look at is that maybe they did an investigation and they got intelligence, and their assessment was that it is not as credible as or they didn't find the evidence, and then they decided not to escalate it. We don't know. We can speculate on that. So whether the Director General has been informed, we agree that if he says that he's not been informed, there might be several reasons for that.
And you touched a bit on geopolitics. I've been reading this article, and apparently, experts are divided on the UK's warning, with some saying they believe it is an attempt by the UK government to muzzle South Africa for its stance on the Russia-Ukraine war, and what's currently happening right now in Israel and Palestine, in the Middle East. Can these kind of warnings also be used as, a form of politicking, between two countries that might have, different views on geopolitical affairs?
Well, Selalu, in international politics, it's a murky world sometimes. It depends on through what lens you are looking at and from what perspective you are talking about. So it is always open for these type of things. We do not know. Because we will be speculating if we go venture on into that route. There might be some agendas from them, but normally in your intelligence world, what they work on, they work on these facts. I know these guys coming from that background, that they are very, very meticulous before they issue a warning like that, because they know that there will be ramifications, etc., and it's going to influence a lot of things, and also it might influence your relations on a diplomatic level. So these guys are very meticulous whenever they go out into that, and they're hesitant just to go. And that is why we must understand that warning was given out firstly after the events in Israel, and then it was followed up. And also we saw that towards the end of March there was a similar warning that appeared on the website of the UK in Kenya for a similar warning. So those warnings are going onto the website of the government. They don't issue a press release to major international press companies, and then they go out and they blow the big horn that there is a warning. What the reason is that they do is, like I said in the beginning, you got in the business interest, and when these people are traveling to South Africa, high level people are traveling to South Africa, for instance, what they will do then is they will go on the website, they will go into whether it is criminal, terrorist, or any threats, they will do a threat assessment for their contingent that is visiting, and then they will up their contingency plan in terms of security for their people. That is the main objective of those kind of warnings, and that has been picked up by the press, and they made it known in South Africa, and then it went viral. So I doubt whether it was the intention of the British government to make this blow this out into a very big thing. But what we can really say is that before they issue a warning like that, there are some processes, there are some protocols, and they have to follow that. Otherwise, it will jeopardize their relationships with South Africa.
I want us to take a quick break, for a short bit. But then when we come back, I'm sure, a lot of South Africans will be having this question at the back of their mind, especially looking at the capabilities, of our security forces and also of our intelligence. I want us to touch a bit on whether or not our intelligence is capable enough to halt, this kind of terrorism attacks if they do happen. And I think, a lot of South Africans would definitely want to know, if they're in safe hands, and if indeed, the government and all of its agencies, are capable enough to, handle these kind of things. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll still be with Willem, Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism at ISS.
This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Are you ready for a journey of spiritual significance? Join Khidmatul Awam Pilgrim Services for an unforgettable Umrah experience during Dhul Qa'dah. Walk in the footsteps of the Hujjaj, guided by esteemed scholars Mulana Dawood Samson and Mulana Muhammad Silaji. Our Dhul Qa'dah package departs on May 10th and returns on May 25th via Egypt Air out of Johannesburg. Experience 9 nights in the blessed city of Medina and 5 nights in the sacred city of Mecca, with packages starting from just 27,500 rands. Enjoy a fully guided tour, including Umrah visa, Jumu'ah prayers in both harams, seamless transfers, and enriching ziyarats. Feel free to visit our offices nationwide and speak to our knowledgeable consultants, or simply contact us at 010-6005-786. Hikmatul Awam Pilgrim Services, your pathway to a blessed journey.
Welcome to Faro Auto Investments, where luxury meets perfection. Located at 92 Rivonia Road, Sandton, on level 2 and level 3, our showroom is a sanctuary of opulence. Step into the realm of prestige as you explore our exquisite collection of luxury vehicles, meticulously curated to meet the highest standards of quality and sophistication. But that's not all. Introducing Origins by Faro, our sister company dedicated to offering affordable luxury vehicles without compromising on quality. Experience elegance within reach. Ready to embark on your journey to luxury? Contact us today at 011 444 9460 or email us at info@farogroup.com for more information. Ramadan Mubarak to all our valued customers. Faro Auto Investments and Origins by Faro, where luxury is a lifestyle.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. We just hit 8:32 this morning, and we're still talking to Willem Els. Willem Els is a senior training coordinator on terrorism at ISS. Willem, before you went to that break, I wanted us to touch a bit on our intelligence and all our agencies and their capabilities of halting these terrorism attacks before they happen. Are South Africans in safe hands? Can we rely on our government, to I don't know, kind of come to a rescue and mitigate these kind of attacks if they indeed should happen and they do have the intelligence?
So it's not no secret that our intelligence services are in trouble. The state capture severely hampered them. It came out in all the different reports. Also, the uprising, some 2 years ago indicated that they were not in place. There were no warning about that, etc. And since then, they started to revamp, and that is also one of the reasons why we have the revision of the Intelligence Act, where they are bringing some additional measures to up them, to beef them. We also see that there's a concerted effort from government side to really bring them back up to par. So some strides have been made there. There's some improvement. We saw that in the intelligence, on the crime intelligence side. We had a lot of successes in recent weeks, but they're not there yet. They're not out of the woods yet. But we believe that the GILAB Act amendment will put things in place, and should they then put all of those structures in place, slowly but surely they will get back on par and get back on where they're supposed to be in order to protect us.
You mentioned earlier that South Africa doesn't have a history of terror-linked attacks, and our government hasn't really had, in any case, need to issue out these kind of warnings. But looking at South Africa, where we position geopolitically, and how we interact with other countries, how vulnerable are we as South Africa to terrorism attacks? Are we really open? Is it one of those countries that can easily be attacked because of, I don't know, unknown enemies and terror organizations around the world that might have a negative outlook on our country and how we go about doing things?
Yeah, in the first place, South Africa positioned itself very clearly in recent months in one part of the corner, and of course that opens yourself as a country up for some attacks. But what we see in South Africa, and that is on record, is regarded as one of the more financial hubs funding terrorism, and a lot of money is leaving South Africa towards these organizations. So while these guys are able to work in South Africa very freely for various reasons, it will not be very wise for them to have an attack or an orchestrated attack in South Africa. There are about 3 terror cases that are currently on the books, that have been on the books for some time. So it's not that there has not been attacks in South Africa. There has been. It's been fairly contained. But the problem that we are sitting with, even after the attack in Russia, we saw that the group that accepted responsibility, they also went on various media platforms where they were promoting and prompting lone wolf attacks. And that is your danger. You might have some organized structures in South Africa that think it's not wise to attack, but those people that are open to these media propaganda, if you can call it like that, and then they decide to act unilaterally as a lone wolf, that is a very big danger that we have to keep in mind.
And just lastly, before I let you go there, at this point, what would you advise the South African government to do with this kind of information that they have? Sit back and watch, or try to act swiftly, get that information, have control measures in place that if it does happen, we have some kind of recourse measure. Because I think, with what happened in the 7th of October in Israel, you had Egypt and many other countries coming out and said, they had issued, an alert to Israel, but they didn't heed the call. Hence, whatever happened. Do you think the South African government needs to do something? Do they need to act? Do they need to, put measures in position in these what hotspots? You might call that might be vulnerable to terror attacks.
Yeah. In the first place, in South Africa, they've got various measures in place in terms of our NICOC and in terms of our NAJOINT. They've got plans in place that have been in place for several years. They're updating it. We've got structures in place that's supposed to act proactively as well as reactively. The most important thing there is your information, as you rightly mentioned. Whether it is foreign information or locally gathered information, it is very important to act on that, and action is not only going online and issue a statement. Action is to put your apparatus in place and also to activate your intelligence structures to further investigate, to further inform you, because without that intelligence, your decision makers are working blind and they cannot act proactively. So that is the most important thing that South Africa should do. We know that they have structures in place, but they should focus on that in order to be able, it's always better to act proactively than to act reactively to these kind of things.
And lastly, should South Africans not worry? Should we go about our business? People should sleep safely at night and only worry about the crime that we have internally. What would be your parting shot, just a short message to South Africans regarding this, who I'm sure after reading this, would be really, really afraid and scared for themselves and their families?
Yeah, one of the first things is that, we should not bend in or fall in for fear mongering. It's not time to panic. South Africa has got a long history of incidents and events, and South Africa is a very resilient community. So your chances of being exposed to some serious violent crime is much worse or much higher than being exposed to a terror attack. So we should be diligent, we should be on our alert, but we should not go into panic.
Oh, thank you so much there, Willem Elsa, for joining us, really, really unpacking this to us thoroughly. Until we meet again, we're going to let you go for now, but thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you very much.
There you have it there, Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosive-Related Incidents at the Institute for Security Studies there, unpacking for us that recent terrorism alert issued for South Africa by the British government. The British government saying there might be chances of a terror attack in one of South Africa's malls and very busy hotspots in recent days, and everyone should be on the lookout. Willem saying you're more likely to be exposed to a violent crime than you are to a terror attacks because of the measures that the country has in place. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the biggest democracy in the world, India, is going to the elections. We have journalist Sheikh Zakir Hussain, who's on standby. He's the former editor of the Cognate, a digital news platform for Indian Muslims in India, and he'll be chatting to us about the lay of the land. How is it looking? We're going to our elections on the 29th of May. They are voting starting today, so we'll be getting insights from him about how it has started in the morning. Those are millions and millions and millions of Indians going to the polls and choosing their next leader. It's between the BJP again and the opposition party. So we'll see how that pans out, and how Sheikh Zakir there will be giving us more insight on what's currently happening in India and giving us, a lay of the land. More after this.